Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a wonderful week so far. Today, we're going to be doing a number of interesting things in regards to Cardano. We're going to start by looking at a number of on-chain analytics. And the reason that I'm doing this is to show you guys that despite the slumpy price action, slumpy is a good way of putting it, we are growing as a blockchain. And in my opinion, there's a lot of value that is yet to be realized. And in actual fact, I believe Cardano is undervalued given where it currently is. And of course, we know it's certainly undervalued given where it's going, but we're not there yet. So we're focusing on the here and now. We are going to look at some on-chain analytics that suggest this. Came across another article talking about what we've already covered on the channel, and it was to do with some of the statements made by Kraken, which is a large crypto exchange, and how they actually think Cardano could come ahead of Ethereum. They had positioned Cardano ahead of Ethereum for a number of reasons, such as how cheap the chain is to use, the fact that we've seen more transactions or more on-chain activity than Ethereum, and it's been at a considerably cheaper price, and so on and so forth. How there's a lot more growth taking place on ADA. We know that we were the most developed chain on GitHub and so on, or GitHub and so on and so forth. So we'll be covering all that. Again, we already covered the actual Kraken article, but a lot of people are kind of catching up to it and putting these out today. So all steps in the right direction. We'll be talking about the price. The overall markets are still very slumpy. And of course, this is why Cardano is acting in the way that it is. Markets as a whole aren't really seeing high volumes of retail involvement. If you look at Google Trends and such things, they're not really at any kind of an all-time high. In fact, they're very close to all-time lows. This kind of FOMO, this kind of spike in interest is all coming back around full circle. It's just a matter of when, not if. And it's just a case of sitting tight until we get there. So very quickly, guys, apologies for any audio issues. The video we put out earlier, the audio was being terrible. It's been quite a long day, so forgive me if there is any audio issues. If it's fine, that's perfect. We'll also be taking a quick look at DeFi Llama. And of course, we're going to be covering what Charles Hoskinson had spoke about yesterday. And this is a serious issue for the crypto space. This is a part of the America Competes Act that is really came about to tackle China and to keep America as a real competitor. We know China, there's this kind of global or economic battle between America and China in terms of growth. And this act is really, or supposedly, to help America become a real competitor or continue to be a competitor and stay in the race against China. But it involves something that would be extremely damaging to the crypto space, that would essentially give Janet Yellen the power to decide what does and doesn't get traded without any kind of a question. It would give her the ultimate authority to essentially say, look, I don't like Cardano. Let's make sure that it's not traded in the US without any kind of a question or rebuttal. So we're going to talk about that. This is significant. Charles obviously spoke about this yesterday. He spoke about setting up a PAC, which is essentially a political movement, if you will, that campaigns to get certain legislation in for funding and various things, kind of like lobbying. This is what we need as a crypto space, and I'm certainly doing some brainstorming in ways that I can help this acquisition take place, help this take place and develop. And I will be talking to a lot of my Discord members about ways that we can actually, take part as a community and fight for what we believe in, because we all believe in blockchain, or I certainly do. Yes, we know that it's nice to make money, and we see blockchain as a great investment, but that can all be undone via legislation like this. And it's really sad for me to see that Janet Yellen and a very small amount of people would have the ultimate power on deciding what people can and can't use. And that's not how a democracy works, in the sense that a democracy should work by the fact, democracy just comes from two Latin words, and essentially means that mob rule. And that's not how a democracy works. It should be the people that decide, not a very small number of people, unelected people at that. So let's get into the video, guys. Overall markets are very slumpy. Bitcoin, of course, is not doing too much. We did say that this rally was a relief rally, and that it wasn't anything really to write home about, given the fact that you are still in a clear downtrend and you need to set up structure and start putting in higher highs and higher lows. You did put a higher low in, but you failed to put a higher high in on the 4 hourly and certainly the bigger time frames. On the smaller ones, you kind of did. but it was very quickly met with a down movement. And Cardano, of course, is just following. But the fundamental reasons to be bullish on Cardano have never been so strong. And that's what people like Kraken, Grayscale, a number of other big institutions are realizing, and they're actually kind of putting forward the argument that, look, Cardano is undervalued in comparison with some of these other blockchains. It has such a strong community, and this is just over the past 30 days. We've seen ADA wallets essentially just continue to climb. So the total ADA staked actually decrease. This quick explanation of why this might be: people are potentially getting panicked out the markets, you know, for the same reason that people panicked out of global markets. We've seen a kind of downturn given the headwind from the Federal Reserve. And this is the new ADA wallets per day. Sometimes it will spike, sometimes it won't. We saw a huge influx of 24,000 ADA wallets in one day. DeFi Llama, of course, we're seeing an uptick in DeFi Llama. We saw a call off with the slumpy price action, but ultimately, you know, we're going above and beyond 100 million. We said that when we were only at 6, I think, million, and we'll continue to grow as more and more dApps turn on. You've got the adjusted volume per day, the native tokens. So this is tokens being issued on the Cardano network, continue to grow. Transaction payments per day, an average blockchain loan, which we know has been pretty much close to 100% for a while now. They are working, and we did have parameter updates 2 days ago, I think, on the 25th at the border of the epoch, which essentially increased the memory, allowing a little bit more throughput to go through and hopefully clearing out some of the congestion that's taking place on Sunday Swap. So that's that. You know, that's some really interesting on-chain analytics. You can come on here, by the way, guys, and play around. Cardano Blockchain Insights. Now, this is only from a month. We go to a year ago, for example. So we go for January the 26th. We'll quickly let this load up, and we'll see what that looks like over a kind of wider horizon. And you can see ADA wallets continue to grow. The total amount of ADA staked went from pretty much, or it stayed pretty consistent actually, which is interesting. New wallets per day, we've seen an uptick in that. Of course, we know DeFi Llama and their situation, given the fact that DeFi is only a recent thing really and is only just getting started. Adjustment volume per day, we've seen huge spikes under certain points, and you can look at the native assets that have obviously been produced on Cardano, transactions per day, and so on. Average blockchain load. As we become more and more used, as more and more things are built, of course, the average blockchain load will continue. I'll just make my face a little bit shorter so you guys can see that. So let's move on to, of course, what Charles Hoskinson had highlighted. He made a video on it yesterday. This is ridiculous. And this was pretty much snuck in. I don't think anybody voted for this. Given how many people are on board with the crypto space, I don't think they'd want to do it any harm. And this is a typical case of politics failing the masses. It's really not, nobody voted for this. Nobody voted for even some of the officials that actually, or the official who put this forward. They were nominated, if you will. They weren't elected. And this is going to be potentially hugely damaging to the crypto space. What it would essentially mean is that Janet Yellen would have, not just her, but the people that surround her as well, would have the authority to essentially ban and to make sure that no financial services offer certain cryptos. They would have the ultimate say on that, whether it was a security, whether it was a commodity, you know, none of that would matter. They would just ultimately be able to say, we don't want this to take place. We don't want, using Cardano as an example, to be traded on Coinbase or any other exchange. We don't want it in the US. This is hugely detrimental. And the thing that upsets me the most about this, just like when China came out and banned their citizens from interacting with crypto exchanges, this hurts the citizens of the countries. And what these countries don't realize is that if they only accepted this technology, they would enrich not only the country, because you generate taxes, you generate jobs, you generate infrastructure, so on and so forth, but you actually enrich the people as a whole. And it's a huge growth sector, a $2 trillion industry that they're essentially just going to potentially wipe out and cause to be treading on eggshells and really slow down any kind of innovation. We've seen this before in other industries. When the car industry came out, the motor industry, for example, they essentially regulated it so that you have to have 3 people to drive it. Completely impractical. Could you imagine? One of those people was to wave flags around. And this is often what happens when we move into a technology that people just don't understand. And it's very clear to me that the majority of politicians have absolutely no understanding of the technology that they're legislating, that they're regulating. And it's really sad to see. But one thing, you know, if let's say this gets passed and it goes through, it can be terminated in the sense that if there's enough of a fight put up, and this is what Charles was calling for yesterday, essentially saying we need to all get behind, we need to phone Congress members. Of course, I'm not in the US, so I don't have a say over there. But if this took place in Britain, and I am actually trying to find politicians within Britain that are crypto friendly so that I can talk to them and actually see if there's anything that we can do to help. And one big way to help is through donations. You know, lobbying works. One reason that the banking sector, we've seen it with tobacco, we've seen it with gambling. One reason a lot of these industries do very well or are allowed to do very well is because of the money that they throw at politics. Unfortunately, that's the way that it is. It's not a perfect world that we live in. Anybody that thinks it is absolutely kidding themselves. But we need to try and do something to move and to play that game, essentially play the political game. And donations is a great way of doing it. Like I say, I'm going to do some brainstorming and think about ways that we could potentially help within this fight, be a soldier within it, and so on and so forth. So that was really all I wanted to say on this. America competes would be pretty devastating. There's a big thread here from Jerry Brito, or Brito. Burrito, I said there, Brito, and essentially, you know, he's pointing out a lot of the flaws and the issues that this would cause. It would essentially give authority to the Secretary of the Treasury to basically decide what does go and doesn't go without any kind of a debate or without any kind of a rebuttal. And you can see they've essentially crossed all these out and said, look, if you wanted to regulate or if you wanted to restrict something, you'd have to go through a process of doing it. Well, they essentially said, scrap that. You've just got the ultimate authority in your favor. And I think this was actually put into the bill, was snuck in by an individual who comes from the banking sector. So you can understand why it is where it is. Special interests, again, everyone is special interest. Let's not kid ourselves. But this is hugely damaging to the crypto space. And certainly if you're in America, getting in touch with your Congress member, you know, would be a step in the right direction. So that's really all I have for you in this video. It was just a short and sweet one. Apologies again if there's any problems with the audio. Just remember that as far as on-chain metrics go, as far as fundamentals go, as far as vision go, as far as creativity go, Cardano has never been in such a strong position. The price, in my opinion, absolutely does not reflect that. So that's really all I have for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed the content. If you have, a like is always appreciated. So is a comment. Remember, we do have the All in Crypto stake pool. Link to our Discord in the description. And hopefully I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gents.